All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today, you're listening in using your computer speaker system by default. You will have the opportunity to submit questions to Donna Stone by typing them into the questions pane on the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end. Now, a little bit about Donna. Donna Stone of Stone Business Coaching is an entrepreneur, business coach, and writer. She grew her own multi-award winning business from a garage to 5 locations around Australia, till she successfully sold it several years ago to focus more on business coaching. She's now been coaching businesses all over Australia for 15 years. The swag of fantastic Google reviews on her website tells the story of her successes with clients. She is a 7 times published author. While she does have formal qualifications in accounting, marketing, business management, and training, it's her 35 plus years of real world experience, which has given her the nickname Uber Coach. She has spoken at many universities, chambers of commerce, conferences, and business events. Donna's approach is practical, hands-on, and effective. So today, Donna will be speaking on time mastery. I will now hand this over to Donna.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Tony. Great to be here. Now, I just want to, because I'm flying a little bit blind, I can't see you guys. If you can just maybe put hands up to Tony just to confirm you can hear me okay, you can see me okay, everything's running smoothly. So if we can get a few hands up indicating everything's good. Tony, are you getting some indicators that we're working smoothly and everyone's...
Yep, out of the 20 participants logged in so far, 15 have raised their hands.
Excellent. Lovely to hear. That's awesome. Very good. So today, time mastery, one of my favorite subjects. I really love covering this one. I talk with it, to clients, to a number of organizations. This one is, I guess, a very shortened version of a full-day webinar that I often do for a training organisation. So it's just picking up on the key pointers, but I know you'll get some great value from it, or I certainly hope you will. And we're going to be covering a few different things today. So, things like mastering your priorities. It's not just watching the clock. It's, lots of other things that play in on that. Being on time, delegating, perfectionism, which definitely affects our time management, email overwhelm, meetings, distractions, procrastination, and technology. So, there are different strategies that we can certainly do to improve, how we do master our time. Now, Tony has covered a little bit on housekeeping. I just want to, mention a few other things. If you can be present, I can't see what you're doing. You might be just clicking away on emails, but if you are here, it's only, it's a bit less than an hour. If you can try and really focus, even take some notes. Quite often in training, it's what you get out of it is what you put into it. So the other thing is, if we're doing any chat sessions or anything like that, please be respectful of other people's input. And let's have a great session. So time. I thought I would share with you some stats, because certainly it's a really important subject and some things that can be a bit scary. The average worker spends 51% of their time on low value tasks. 82% of people don't have a time system or a process. The average manager loses 3 hours a day on interruptions. So if you multiply that out by 5, there's 2 days just lost on interruptions. People do work their hardest from 9 a.m. to noon. Now, I'm probably a bit different. I'm a real morning person. I'm up at about 4 or 5 in the morning. So my prime time is actually 5 a.m. to 9. But, certainly most people are morning people. And people at work, on average, get 50 to 60 interruptions a day. And that's an awful lot. So we're going to cover on quite a few different things, but I thought I'd just share some of those stats about time management and time. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. Crisis Kathy, we're going to call her. So Crisis Kathy works in an organisation. About a month ago, her boss said to her, look, Kathy, I'd like to get you to do a really important little project for us. It's a report type thing, very important for, you know, some work we've got coming up. It's not due for a month, but I'll email you the details today. And Kathy's boss did do so, sent that information a month ago. Let's say today's Thursday and it's due tomorrow. Kathy's boss walks past her desk and says, hey, Kathy, looking forward to seeing that report tomorrow. What time do you think you'll have it? By close of business? And Kathy goes, yeah, sure. Meanwhile, Kathy has not even started it. She hasn't even thought about it. She got her email a month ago and she thought, oh yeah, I'll work on that. And that's where that thought stopped. A number of things didn't happen. Now, first thing, obviously, she didn't put it in her diary and plan how she's going to manage that project. This is not a 5-minute exercise. We'll just whip up a letter or something like this. This is a decent sized mini project. And so she hasn't started it. She hasn't done anything. She does recall from part of the project was to get some financial reports from the accounts department. Today's Thursday. It's payday. Accounts won't even talk to her today. They're focused on running payroll. So she could send an email and say, hey, I need this info urgently. They're not even going to look at it today. She's got a whole lot of other things on her desk to do. Her desk's a mess. She's not organized. She hasn't started it. It's a crisis. Now, in this situation, just as, you know, very, you know, basically, this could have been easily prevented. For a start, Kathy should have put it in her diary. Now, not put it in her diary for the Friday date, 4 o'clock, report due now. That doesn't do us any good. It should have been put in her diary with reminders, you know, logged up beforehand. Perhaps she has a planning schedule on when she's going to work on it, break the task down into bite-sized chunks, and make sure other tasks are being done in a timely way as well. Now, from the perspective of her boss, he should have managed that a little bit better and actually touched base with her a few times throughout the month and actually seen how she's progressing. So it wasn't just all crisis, Kathy. Her boss probably should have managed that a little bit better. We need to know in our day-to-day activities what our priorities are, what's important, what do we have to do, what would we like to do, what are the things that, yeah, if we run out of time, we don't have to do that. What are the things that we are wasting time on? So one important thing for all of you is to know what your top priorities are. Planning out your week around that and even planning your day. So it might be, and you know, like I used to, when I used to talk about time, you know, I'd say, you know, have a list of, you know, a sheet of, you know, a weekly planner or a daily planner. But these days, there's so many wonderful apps that just manage that for you. Personally, I use one called To-Do List, and it's free. It's linked with Microsoft. It links with my tasks in Microsoft. I can set up categories. I can set up what I want to do today. I can set up reminders, alerts. I can break up my categories so I can have it for things I want to do on a personal level, things I need to do for, I have 2 businesses. So what am I going to do for the coaching business? What am I going to do for the other business? What do I need to do? Even other things like medical appointments. You know, do you need to follow up with the doctor on some tests? Do you need to get a script filled? Do you need to do all those things that we need to do? Having it in lists really makes it easy. But certainly when you've got a number of things happening in a week and you've got priorities, work out what your top priorities are and then schedule them. And if you don't know what a priority, you know, how something falls as a priority, perhaps someone's given you a task, ask the question, when do you need this by? How urgent is this? Someone could give you a task and say, look, I just want it in the next month or so. That's fine. And then the next person could come along after that person and say, I need this urgently today. You know, this is critical. If we lose this big account, it's going to really impact the business. So even though the first task came in first, it's not your highest priority. The highest priority is the other task that's critical due today. So you plan your day, you plan your week. And certainly one of my mottos is don't leave things until the last minute. You leave it to the last minute. You know Murphy's rule, you know, what can go wrong will go wrong at the worst possible time. So don't leave things to the last minute. Like, for instance, with Crisis Kathy, you know, she goes to print the report. Let's say it needs to be printed. And then suddenly she realizes she's out of toner or paper or something else, and she can't get that unless she runs down to Officeworks or something or somewhere to get paper or printer ink or whatever urgently. Like, that's the thing, when you don't plan and you're not organized and you're leaving things to the last minute, crises happen. Not sure if that's a real word, crises, but a crisis will occur. Okay, so my next subject is about being on time. Now, this comes, firstly, I'm going to talk about mindset. Sometimes people will say, oh, look, I'm shocking with time. I'm always running late. And that might be an honesty, but it's also a mindset. You're setting yourself up to say, I'm always late, I'm always going to be late. And you're sort of putting yourself into that mindset of that's the way it is. Instead, change your mindset. I'm working at being better with my time. I'm improving my time management. Now, I will admit, I used to be a shocker. I had a reputation for always running late, and I had all my reasons, or I'll say excuses. Super busy, doing 10,000 things, 3 kids, 5 businesses, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, it becomes a choice, your choice. So if you decide, I'm not going to be late anymore, and I'm not now, I'm often early for things. Like this morning, for example, I was meeting Tony online at 1:45. I was there at 22. So that's the thing. It's getting that mindset of being on time and wanting to do it. You know, you need to want to do it. Now, you can certainly use things like diaries, organization, schedules. The thing that I found very helpful, if anyone's still on manual diaries, I tend to say, really, I would recommend going to a diary that's just on your phone. And there are lots of them around. I mean, you know, you get an iPhone, for example, it comes free with calendar. And that's the one I use. Easy, simple, no complications. I can schedule things in. I can put multiple reminders in. You know, you can schedule things and you can be organized. So do use your diaries, use tools that you've got available. And if you haven't got the tool available, make the time. So invest a little bit of time to save time. So make the time to go out there and put, you know, a diary system on your phone. You know, actually start using it. I know years ago when I was working with a manual diary, I decided, because I thought, hello, I'm a business coach, I should be up with the times. So it was probably about 10 or 12 years ago, I decided I'm going to go to a digital diary. But I've got to admit, I was a little bit nervous about it. And I decided, okay, I'm going to run both in tandem. I remember it was the month of May. I still remember that. I'm going to run both in tandem. So I'm going to keep the manual diary going. I'm going to start using the diary on my phone. That went on for about 3 days. And then after about 3 days, I saw how brilliant, how well a digital diary works. And whoosh, the manual diary went out the window. I just didn't need it. Certainly it was handy for a while for just making notes, but it's just not something that I needed. So getting some good systems in place. The other thing about being on time is having buffers. So as you know, I do business coaching and I might have, say, 45-minute appointments, but I always have a 15-minute buffer between so that I'm never running late for my next appointment. Same thing goes anywhere you go or do, allow a buffer. Now, I will talk in a second about rocks, pebbles, and sand. With your buffers, don't feel like, oh, if I put a 15-minute buffer in there, I've got an appointment at 10 o'clock, I plan to turn up at 9:45. And you think, oh, but I'm wasting 15 minutes. You know, time is time, you know, time is money. It's an important thing. You can fill that time. Now, if something goes wrong, you get caught up in traffic, you know, problems finding a park, problems with anything. You know, you're walking out the door and suddenly someone nabs you and says, hey, Donna, I've really got to, I've got to pin you down to talk about this. Oh, look, I'm running late. I need to go to an appointment. Shouldn't even be saying running late. I'm on my way to an appointment and I need to be on time. Oh, well, can we just book a time? And, and they're pinning you down. So all those sort of things can happen. So you set up your buffers. Now, the concept of rock, pebbles, and sand. Some of you may have heard of this. If you imagine you've got a glass jar, and if you put the sand in first, then put the pebbles in, and then put the rocks in, you probably wouldn't fit everything. But if you put the rocks in first, then put the pebbles in, and they'll trickle down between the rocks, and then last you pour in the sand. And in theory, even you could put water in on top of that. Everything will fit, and you'll get more into that jar than if you did it in the other order. Same concept with time. So your rocks are the big projects, the things that you know will take a good amount of time. You schedule those in. So you might have, Crisis Kathy had her project to do. She should have scheduled that into her diary and said, right, I'm going to work on this, depending on how much time she needed. It might be, I'm going to do 2 hours every Wednesday, and I'm going to make sure I get this finished on time. So that would have been a rock type activity, and she would have scheduled that in her diary, and it's rocks. The pebbles are the other things, the smaller activities, but they still take up a little bit of time. Your sand are your fillers. So in that situation where you've got buffers, and it might be that you've got, you're ready for your appointment and you're actually on time or even a little bit early, think about your sand activities. So it could be, I will just clear some spam emails out of my email folder, or I will hop on social media and do a few things. And I'm talking about people who are in business doing social for business purposes. Or I'll clear some quick emails that I know I can just clear these ones quickly. The sand are the ones that we're doing fillers. It might be that you've got something you need to read and you're going to an appointment and you can sit there and read it on your phone. It might be you want to catch up with the news. Could be any number of things, particularly if they're on your phone, then it's nice and easy to do while you're waiting. Don't do anything that is a pebble type activity like, oh, I'm waiting to be pulled in on this appointment, but I'll return some phone calls. That won't work if you're sitting in reception, someone's reception waiting to be invited in. But you can certainly do some things on your phone. The other thing that I found about being on time is avoiding the act of stuffing. Now, by stuffing, what I mean is you've got a spare hour. So what will you do? You'll try and fit 2 hours of activities into that hour. So try to avoid stuffing. It's not a good thing to do, and it will just make you late. If the reality is this is going to take an hour, you're not going to fit it into a 30-minute block. Be realistic about your time. Try and set good routines. Try and maintain or learn and then maintain good habits. So things like keeping your buffers, things like using your diary, having the right mindset, creating your routines. So being on time is an important one, and certainly something that we can all do if we want to, but it is a mindset. All right, the next thing is about delegating. Now, delegating might not be an option for everyone. It might be an option for some. So I'm only going to spend a few minutes, 5 minutes or so on this. First question is, who is the best person to delegate this task to? And it might be ascertaining, does that person have the skill? Do they have the knowledge? Do they have the time? There's no point in saying, look, I'm going to give this to Jane, and Jane's already up to her eyeballs with a million things to do, and she's already drowning. That's not really a good option. You're just fobbing it off to someone who's just likely not going to be able to get it done. So try and find the best person for the task. The next thing is to communicate fully with the person on what you're needing them to do. And if you're delegating a task, then you want to show them how to do it. You want to teach them. So you might, for example, you might be getting them to do invoicing and they've never done it before in your system. So you might sit down and show them how an invoice is done. Then you might get them to do the next one and you'll sit with them and guide them. And then it will come to a point where you will leave them for a while and say, look, I'll let you do half a dozen of them and I'll come back and I'll see how you're going. And always being available for questions, not like, well, I've shown you how to do one, you know, that's it, you're on your own, don't talk to me ever again. It doesn't work well that way. If you're delegating, you want this to be a success. So on that note, if you do need to give them feedback, there's a term in training, and some of you may well know it, called sandwich feedback. So when you sandwich feedback, you think of a sandwich, so you've got bread, meat, bread. The bread is positivity. The meat is the actual feedback. So you might say, look, I love that you've showed initiative and you're doing this. However, we do need it done in this way. So you need to do that instead of this. But hey, love that you're jumping in with both feet and giving it a go. So positive feedback, positive, not just you're doing it wrong. No one likes to hear that. That doesn't get the best out of people. Okay. So I normally, when I'm doing presentations, I'll say, hands up, who's a perfectionist? And I might, Tony, if you're there, and I will ask everyone, if you feel that you are a perfectionist, if you're happy to do hands up, I don't need to know names or anything. Do we have some perfectionists in the room? Okay, so we do have some perfectionists.
We have 7.
7, yep.
7 of them.
Excellent, and make it 8. Actually, I call myself a recovering perfectionist. Now, my view was, and I get it, a perfectionist will think everything's got to be perfect all the time. It doesn't. If I'm doing an email to one of my staff, it doesn't matter if the I is lowercase. It doesn't matter if there's a full stop missing. It doesn't matter if I spelt the word there with the wrong there, or there. It's not critical. If I was doing an annual report that's going to get sent out to 10,000 people, then yes, those things do matter. So being aware of when does it need to be perfect, when doesn't it need to be perfect. We don't need to be perfect all the time. Only really the perfectionists expect that. And I think statistically, something like only normally 3% of the population are perfectionists. I might be wrong on that. And certainly in certain groups, you'll get a higher group of perfectionists than in other groups. The idea is when you are a perfectionist and you make it 110% right, it takes a lot longer. So it might mean that you're reading through something 3 times. It might be that you've tweaked it multiple times. You know, you're doing an email to somebody and you've read it, reread it, changed it, adjusted it, tweaked it. And what could have been a 2-minute email is now a 12-minute email. Now multiply that out by multiple emails and suddenly you can see where your time is going. It is far better to be done, to have it done, than to be perfect. Now I'll use a perfect example. My first book, it would never have got published if I had ensured it was perfect. Now I did read through it myself once. I know I had 3 proofreaders and then I put it out to print and it still came back. A couple of people came back to me and said, oh, Donna, there's a typo on page 85. Cool, thanks for letting me know if that's okay. And I would make a note of that. So when we did a reprint, obviously I fixed that up. But if I had waited till it was perfect, it wouldn't have got published. And I certainly wouldn't have got to book 7. I'm not saying be laxy-daisy about everything. Just choose when does it need to be perfect, how perfect does it need to be. 98% is often enough. So it does come back to adjusting your mindset. It does come back to setting some time budgets and saying, okay, how long am I going to spend on this? And being conscious of your time, like, hang on, I've read this 3 times. It's an email going out to one person and I've reread it 3 times. What am I doing? You know, it might need a little bit of a slap across the face to sort of remind yourself. And I'm not saying self-abuse, but, you know, a little bit of a reminder to yourself to say, whoa, I don't need to be perfect. What I have found with perfectionism, for me personally, what worked well was to make small changes. So one of the things that I did was I said to my team, okay, I'm going to aim to not be 100% perfect. So you're going to see emails that might have little typos in them. That's me being a non-perfectionist. I couldn't help myself. I had to warn them because I thought, oh my gosh, they see something wrong. And it didn't matter. And it just saved me so much time. And it was just those little changes. Now, initially what I did is I purposely sent emails out with typos, and I would see a mistake and I would be like, no, don't fix it. This is going to one of my team. She knows I'm purposely not correcting things. So I am purposely letting a mistake go through. And you know what? You can do it. It is hard initially. It's not as easy to do just to say, just don't be a perfectionist. It is something that does take a bit of work and a bit of mindset and a bit of determination. I say I'm not a recovered perfectionist. I say I'm recovering, because I do know I have a tendency to revert back to that perfectionism manner at times. So it's got to be, no, whoa, slow down. I need to, time is precious. You know, there's only so many hours in the day. I need to be very conscious that I don't overuse that time and I become a perfectionist. So that's one thing. Next subject is email overwhelm. I know everyone suffers from this. So a few tips on respective email overwhelm. First thing is turn off your notifications. That ding, 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 that little screen that comes up saying, you have an email from Tony, you have an email from Donna. Turn the notifications off. Unless your job is to be screening emails, the chances are your job is to be doing other things. Email's just part of it. Turn your email, not turn it off, but have it minimized. Turn off the notifications. Look at it in batches. So it might be you go into it at the beginning of the day, say just before or after lunch, and then towards the end of the day. Do it in batches. You don't have to be living on email 24/7 unless your job specifically says your job to live on email 24/7, and that's an expectation. Have a system. It might be that for me, and it's a super simple system. If I open an email, I do something with it. So it might be I respond, or I action it, or it gets put somewhere, or it might be I don't even open it, I delete it. It's rubbish. So I'm just going to block it. So I do things in batches, and having that system. If you're emailing someone, really it should just be a paragraph, just a short paragraph. Email shouldn't be a substitute for a long-winded conversation. So if you're having a conversation with someone, or you're wanting to get their thoughts and opinions, pick up the phone and talk to them. It will be more efficient than email back and forth. What do you think? What do you think? This is not like texting. It's like, hey, how you going? Yeah, I'm good. What you doing? Doing this. It's not a text. It's email. So it shouldn't be the short back and forth. It shouldn't be, I'm having a whole long discussion with you. We need to build a strategy on how we're going to handle the situation. That's when you pick up the phone. So think about when it's suitable to pick up the phone, when it's suitable to have an email. The other thing I do say is avoid disputes via email. You're going to spend a lot of time you should be wording it in the right way, and you can spend a lot of time wording something and then it gets taken the wrong way, and then you spend even more time putting fires out. You know I've had staff come to me and say, hey, Donna, look at this email I got from this client. I think they're really cranky with me. And I read it and think, I get where you're coming from, but maybe they're not. And I would say to them, hey, give them a phone call and have a chat with them and say, look, hey, I got your email. Thought I'd just touch base and just check in on you on this. And sometimes it's been a case of it's just the wording. Wording can be taken so many different ways when it's written. I didn't tell you to do that. I didn't tell you to do that. I didn't tell you to do that. Now, emphasis on different words changes the meaning of a sentence completely, and things can be taken the wrong way. So it's just better have those discussions either over the phone or in person, so that you're not making a mountain out of a molehill and creating further fires that take time to put out. The other thing with email is to set boundaries. And again, depends on your situation. If you're expected to be on call 24/7, then there's that expectation. But if you're not, it's setting boundaries. So it might be like, for example, I say to clients, look, I work from 8 till 5. And I work Monday to Friday. So they know they can't expect to email me at 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and I'm going to be back to them instantly. But if I was offering 24-hour support, then they could have that expectation. So just be aware of the boundaries and then set your boundaries. And it might be that you get an email through at 10 o'clock at night. That doesn't mean you have to respond to it at 10 o'clock at night. It's the same with phone calls. I get business owners who get calls from clients at 10 o'clock at night. And I'll say, well, if you answer it, then, you deserve what you tolerate. But also you can text people and say, for example, look, can I give you a call first thing in the morning? So you're very nicely setting a boundary saying, look, love to talk to you, but hey, can I give you a call at, tomorrow morning during business hours? You're starting to set in some boundaries. Can be done very nicely without offending people, but still setting those boundaries. The other thing with email, of course, is to unsubscribe from the things that you do not need or want, or to block. I find blocking is actually often quite quicker because I just have the button set up in my taskbar, and I just click on the email, click block, and it deletes it from my inbox and it blocks that person in future. So they just go straight to spam ongoing, because I get so much junk email, so many offers of cheap websites and cheap SEO and all sorts of offers, and we'll do your marketing, we'll do this, we'll do that, everything. There's just so much out there, and you just get that complete email overwhelm. So I block a lot of stuff. Now, what I have found that genuine emails can often end up in my spam folder. So I do check my spam folder once a day, but I put it into alpha order because I know it's probably 99% spam. I look at the first one, I run my eye down, and there could be 30 of them in there. Shift, delete all. But I just always do a quick check, because occasionally something important has ended up in there. So I do check it, but it's such a quick task because I've got a system. Okay, meetings. Don't we love meetings? Alrighty, first question is, with a meeting, is it really needed? Do we need this meeting? Could it be handled with a quick email? Could it be handled with a quick phone call? Who needs to be present? What I do strongly recommend with meetings is that you have an agenda for the meeting and you actually allocate time per agenda item. So it might be that this is a monthly meeting with team leaders, and you've got 5 team leaders, and you're actually going to list the team. So it's going to be team leader update, and you're going to list the 5 people, and you're going to allocate them 2 minutes each. Because I can promise you, you'll get someone who will think, I've got the floor. I'm going to yak, and they just go on and on and on. 15 minutes later, everyone's sort of sitting there thinking, oh, I'm tired of this, I'm bored of this, I want to go. And then they start checking their emails and doing other things. Better to have short, sharp, quick meetings than to be distracted or to have things going on for too long. And if you are the person running the meeting, then be firm about things. Have a timekeeper and actually say, look, Mary, can you be our timekeeper today? And when you hear Mary's phone ring, it's not because she hasn't put her phone on silent or blocked calls. It's because she's timekeeper, your time's up. So then, and you've instructed Mary, just keep the clock going. So the alarm just keeps going until the person realizes, I need to stop talking. So yes, if you are the chair, be in control. It might be an instance where it's an important discussion, but the whole room doesn't need to be involved on that discussion. It might be, look, Jack and John, that's a really important matter. Can I suggest you guys get together, have a discussion about it, or investigate it and do whatever needs to be done. Come back to the meeting next month and report on how you've gone. Or come back to me and report on how you've gone, or, whatever it is. Give them a task, take it, separated. It might be you've got 2 people discussing a client. It's like, guys, great. I love that you're discussing the client. Maybe you guys can catch up after the meeting and talk about that client. It is an important discussion, but maybe you guys can do it outside the meeting. So you're keeping control of the situation. Distractions. Now I'm going to send over to Tony. I've got a distraction and time stealer sheet that you can use as a resource to work out where are your distractions coming from? What is distracting you? What you want to do is work out what distracts you, what causes you to just get distracted and off task and not be where you're going, not be doing what you're meant to be doing. And it can be all sorts of things. It can be those email dings. It can be the person next to you's on their phone all the time talking really loud and you can't hear, you can't even think because all you can hear is them talking. It might be that you're into gaming on your phone and you're trying to work out the word of the day and it's like, oh, I want to work this word out. It might be any number of things. Unless it's an important task, unless it's something you should be working on at the moment, you probably shouldn't be doing it. Now, I've worked with business owners who we've had this discussion and they've said, oh, I'm really hooked to XYZ game on my phone. And I've said, right. So we can do two things. We can either limit it to happen after 5 o'clock or we can just delete it. And I will be proud to say that some of them have said, it's gone, I just deleted it. I'm going, well done, that's awesome. Delete it off your phone and then it's not a distraction, it's not a temptation, just get rid of it. The other thing is not being a fireman. By a fireman, what I mean is that you're putting fires out all the time because there are not processes and systems in place that prevent things from happening. We've all heard the expression, prevention is, far better than a cure, and it's usually a damn sight cheaper and a whole lot time saving. So try and anticipate where things potentially could go wrong in your organization and be in that position of saying, okay, rather than we're going to have this challenge, it even comes back to customer service. When you're talking to a customer, they're going to ask you questions. Why not give them the answers to those questions before they even ask you? And that could be as simple as an FAQ page on your website. So before they ring it up and say, look, do you do this or can you do that? Or what happens with this? Before you even get those calls, you've got an FAQ page on your website that says, do we do this? And the answer is, yes, we can help you with that. Or no, that's out of our scope. We don't do that. Or never it be. So FAQs are really good. Giving clients information is really good. Having systems and processes in place is really good. It stops you having to be reactive and become more proactive. So you're not being that firefighter putting fires out, but instead you're proactive. And ultimately, even though it's an investment of time as you go, it is time saving in the long way, the long term. No. Now, there's a couple of ways you can say no. You can just say no, no, nuh-uh, no. There's lots of ways you can say it. But generally speaking, I say to people, negotiate it. So look, someone might say, look, can I have an appointment with you at 11 o'clock on Friday? And I'd say, my response would be, look, I'd love to. However, I have got another appointment already. How about we catch up at 2 o'clock on Friday, or I've got most of Monday afternoon free. What would work for you? I haven't said no. I've actually gone into negotiation mode. I'm being firm about it. There's no way I can shift my appointment, especially not this one. But even if it was something that potentially could be shifted, and it might be you working on your project. Remember, Princess Kathy should have had a couple of hours blanked out in her diary to work on a project. Now, someone might be asking for time in her 2-hour block that she's got to work on this important project. And they've said, can I have 3 o'clock on a Monday afternoon? And she's like, well, 2 to 4 is when I'm working on this. She might say, look, I'm sorry, I've got another appointment at that time. I could talk to you at 4:15. Or I could do Monday afternoon at that, or Tuesday afternoon at that time, something like that. So negotiate, but be succinct. At other times, it should be a clear no. Telemarketer on the phone, trying to sell you something that you just don't want. Thank you, no, I'm not interested. Have a great day. Be quite clear, quite succinct, and just say no. It's like the emails that come into your inbox and you'll get added to lists, which technically in Australia shouldn't happen. You should subscribe to things, but for whatever way you get added and you decide, I don't want this anymore, it's just taking up my time, I don't need it, it's not value to me, then just simply unsubscribe. That is a way of saying no, thank you. Telling others. So what I mean by telling others and having time out. So let's say that you do have something urgent you've got to work on or important, or it might be just generally, I've got to work on quotes this afternoon. I've got a ton of quotes to get done. I've got to work on this without interruption. So you might say to the others in the office, look, hey guys, I'm just about to go into a couple of really, you can call them power hours. You know, I've just got to work on some urgent quotes. Really got to hit that without too much interruption. Does anyone need me now? So you deal with the interruptions now in a batch. And it's like, great, okay, I'm going to close the door unless the building's burning down or it's a crisis. If you can leave me alone till 3 o'clock, that would be great. You've warned them. You've given them the opportunity to pin you down for anything urgent or that they need to ask you, and then you go in and you have your time out. The other thing that for a while there was a bit of a belief that multitasking is a good thing to do, you know, because you're doing two things at once, you're going to be getting twice as much done. That's not true. It actually is the other way around. When you do two things at once, you're doing neither particularly well. Now, it's a little bit different if I'm on a phone call and I've got pens all over my desk. I could be, you know, having my conversation, putting my pen in a pen holder. That sort of thing's okay. It's a minor thing. Or I might be catching up with a friend on the phone while I'm driving to an appointment. That's okay. I've been driving for so many years. I can have a conversation with somebody, with a friend, family member, that sort of thing while driving. But I wouldn't be having a conversation with a prospective new client while I'm driving, because it's the next level up and I want to be taking notes. I want to be focused on what that person's saying. I want to be present. So I wouldn't do that. So think about, if you are trying to multitask, is it really a good thing to be doing two higher level tasks at the same time? I would say not. You know, try and just keep it that you're only doing something really minor, you know, and you know, if it's something that is really important, just focus on that one thing, do it well, do it quickly. That's why I talk to people and, you know, we talk about meetings and I say a meeting, the ideal meeting is like 15 minutes. That's it. Short, sharp, concise. You're not doing emails at the same time. You're not having other discussions. You're just in the meeting, short, sharp, done. I used to run a group where we had about 6 people in a meeting, and we always did our meeting before another general meeting, and we often ran for about 12 minutes, and it was great. We had an agenda, we had our time. Yes, 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 yes. We're all action people, made decisions promptly, had our notes. 12 minutes later, we're done. Great. We can go to the bathroom and be ready for the next meeting. No problems. So have a plan, stick to it. You know, if it's a case of, I'm going to work on my quotes from, 9 to 11 on a Wednesday, then that's your plan, stick to it. That's your intention. Even put it in your diary so you're not inclined to book other things at that time. Procrastination. So we procrastinate for many, many reasons. It can be because we don't know what to do. It can be because we don't know how to approach it. It can be because it feels overwhelming. It can be for a whole lot of reasons. Fear of failure, fear of success. I've had that with clients. Understand why you're procrastinating, recognize it, and know the why. Then address why you're procrastinating. It might well be that you can apply some time mastery tips. It might be that it's because you don't know how to do something. So get some training. You know, maybe you're trying to use a program that you're not overly confident with, and go to someone in your organization who is good on that program and say, look, hey, can I have a half hour with you? I've got some questions on how to do things on this program. Can you show me? Respect their time, take notes, and then you will have more confidence to go and approach something. It might be a task that is huge and it's like, I just don't know where to start. It's overwhelming. Break it down into bite-sized chunks. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So applying some of your time mastery tips. Also having even self-accountability. There's a little app that a client put me on to a couple of years ago, and I use it every so often, and it's called Forest. I think it cost me $7 or something, to buy the app. It was next to nothing, and it's a good little app. It just keeps that. And I find with that background sound running, that keeps me more on focus. So I find for me, background music works really well. Not a radio where you might get ads, not even like Spotify with ads. I find just straight music. So whatever way you listen to music, if that works for you, it works for me. And I find just by having that background music running, I just sort of suddenly get this tunnel vision and I'm focused and I can just keep going. Remember the consequences if you do procrastinate. So if you're not doing something, what does that mean? It might be that you're missing out on an opportunity, you're missing out on a promotion, you're missing out on winning over a new client, getting a sale. It can be any number of things. If you're not doing what you need to be doing, then there's going to be a consequence. And you might not, you've missed out on a sale. So you think, oh, it's only just one sale. And it might be my commission will be down a little bit more, but no, that's okay. But there is usually consequences to not doing the things that we should be doing. So the next thing is technology. Technology can be a little frustrating, but on the most part, it is our friend. Being paperless definitely saves time. It also saves things like paper and trees and printer toner, but it saves time, because if you're saving things digitally, then when you're searching for something, you're not scrounging through boxes and looking for stuff physically. If you've saved it with a good file name, you're just doing a search on your computer and you should be able to find it quickly if you've got good systems and file names. I find even with archiving, so I still have paperwork that needs to be archived. It's becoming less and less as I've become more and more paperless, but there are still things that need to be archived. And what I find is if I do up an archive list, so in crate number 3, bank statements for the financial year 1st of July 22 to 1st of 30 June 23. So if I'm looking for bank statements in that date period, I go through my archive doc, I scan for that date range, and there it is, it's in box number 3. I don't have to remember where it was. I don't have to pull out any other boxes. I just pull out box number 3, and there it is. Apps and software. So I've mentioned a few. There are lots of apps and software out there to help with time, to help with being organized, to help with planning, all sorts of things. So there is a lot out there. It does come back to working out what will work best for you. And clients will often say to me, okay, what's the best app for this or this? And it's like, well, everyone is different, and what works for one organization or one person may not necessarily be best for others. And I've had clients who've said, oh, I love this. And then I've had someone else say, I hate it. So, you do need to find what's best for you. Most apps will allow you either a free, like a light version that you can trial. You think, yeah, I like the look of this, I'll go up to the next level. Or they'll allow a 14 or 30-day trial to see if is it any good. Remember Zoom. Now, since we've had COVID, most people are Zoom friendly. We know, okay, this is how we use it. This is what, it's comfortable. We can work it. Zoom is an amazing time saver. It's incredible. You can have a Zoom meeting with a prospective new client. You meet them face to face. You see them. Look, here at this, this actual workshop, we're not doing it so much interaction, but one-on-one or a 3-on-1 or a 2-on-1 Zoom, you're getting to talk to each other, you're getting to see facial expressions, you're getting to see, what people, you read a lot through body language. So you're getting to do all that without having to sit on a plane, in a car, in traffic, waiting for appointments, waiting. Like you fly down to, or fly up to somewhere or down, it might be a 1-hour flight, but it's at least a half day you lose, if not more, because you've got check-in at the airport so much before the flight. You've got to get to the airport. You've got to wait in line. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. You just hop onto a Zoom. Like, today was a perfect example. I was on at 22 and, and that's it. Nice, easy, simple, and time efficient. Remember to-do list, use your calendar, Forest, any of those software apps that will help you become more time efficient. That's the sort of thing that helps you. And it might not be you're going to change everything today, But what I do strongly recommend is that you're going to get a PDF of this PowerPoint. You're going to get my distractions checklist. I would strongly recommend that you have a look at that and target a couple of areas that's, there's room for improvement. Don't try to change everything today. Just try and change one thing. And then when that one thing's working well, change another thing, and then change the next thing, and just gradually build up so that in time, you will be getting better and better at things. I haven't even really talked about things like templates. I mean, that's another amazing time-saving process of having templates. That could be email templates. It could be checklists. Like when I do a presentation, I have a checklist. I don't have to think about what I've got to do pre-presentation. I just pull out my checklist. Tick, 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 tick. Oops, forgot to do that. I'll do that now. Easy peasy. It makes life easy. It removes a lot of that head space or head congestion in our heads of things we need to remember, and it helps us be more efficient, more effective, and saves us time. So, Tony, I might get you to open up the floor, or if you've had some questions flow through from anyone, we've got about 8 minutes, so I like to say we're on time and on schedule. So we have got a little bit of time. If anyone has questions and wants to ask me something, now is a great opportunity to do that. May not have the answer, but I might have a great answer. So please ask a question. I say in training all the time, there is no such thing as a dumb question. Any question is great. And if you don't want it to be anonymous, then just send it to APPA, to Tony, and he will send it on to me. So do we have any questions, Tony, coming up at this stage?
There are no questions at the moment, but I do have a question. It may be apt and pretty much for myself, my knowledge and learning on this. Is there a tool or a system where you can set priorities on different tasks? Like you mentioned, you have the ones that are important, urgent, the ones that are not important, not urgent, the ones that can wait a little bit, give it some time and create some buffer. Is there a sort of measuring tool or some sort of thing that you can utilize in Outlook or on your to-do list and sort of categorize them? Do you have anything like that?
Absolutely. There is, and in most apps, there is that functionality. So I know in Outlook, for example, for emails, you can mark items as higher priority. So it is seen as a higher priority. I know I use the Microsoft to-do list, and I can asterisk an item, and that makes it a high priority. So it goes to the top of the list, and is more drawn to my attention. So depending on what system or app or item that you're using, yes, absolutely. Most of them do have that option to say, hey, it's high priority. I mean, even when you're sending emails, you can put on the email that it's high priority because you're wanting to draw it to people's attention. This is urgent, so I will do that with any of my team. I will, but don't abuse it. We've all heard the expression, the little boy who cried wolf. Don't abuse it and because I know some people just set every email as urgent, and it's like, that wasn't urgent. And then I start to almost ignore their urgent notices because it's like, well, you just always say it's urgent and it's not. But certainly if there is something urgent coming up, mark it as urgent. But yes, answer to your question, Tony, depends on what app or system or thing that you're doing. But yes, there often is that priority button that you can mark something as a priority for sure.
Awesome. Now, I'm just checking to see if there are any other questions. Looks like everyone's gone quiet on us today.
I've given them so much to think about.
Yeah, a little bit shy. Well, if there are no other questions, and I know I'm conscious of your time, Donna, it's all about time.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we'll close off the session. It was a fantastic session, Donna.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Oh, look, a question just came in. Here we go.
Okay.
So we have a person, Emmanuel Richards.
Mm-hmm.
I'll read out the question. An observation I have had, an app I have used since 2015 for managing tasks,
Mm-hmm.
diary and client meeting records has just become unsupported. It has been a challenge to now start exploring for alternative options when I have 7 years of critical data in this app backed up in the cloud. Maybe to keep an eye on alternatives in a semi-frequent basis may help avoid this surprise. I'm not sure what
Look, I feel for you with that one. That's a real pain. And if it was a great system, what a pain that they're not continuing with it. If it were me, what I would probably do is hop onto Google and whatever it's called, say alternative to blah, 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 and just see what comes up. It may not, I can't promise that a great option will come up, but some other options may come up. The fact that it's 7 years old and the fact that they're not supporting it maybe tells me it's not particularly popular, because if it was a great, you might find it great, but if it wasn't being taken up well, if it was popular, why would they stop promoting it and supporting it and doing it? So maybe there are actually better opportunities out there. So this might actually be an opportunity to actually move on to a system that is actually better. But I would start with doing that. Do a bit of a Google search and, have a bit of a look and be aware of the time. If they've said this is not going to be supported from X date, don't wait to that date. Let's say it's the 31st of March. Don't wait till, let's say, the 1st of April. Don't be an April fool and find that, come 1st of April, suddenly you're stuck and you've got no options. Start researching it now and looking at some different options. So I do feel for you. No simple answer to that one. The other thing, though, is even quite often if I'm a bit stuck for a particular software to use, I might even put a message on quite a popular Facebook group and ask others, what do you use for this or what do you use for that? And just put the quiz out there to the community in that Facebook group. That's often a way to sort of find out, okay, what are other people using or what do other people recommend? Be in a group of like-minded people. It might even be APPA have a community group or something, even asking the others in your community, okay, what do you use for this?
Great. Emmanuel said, thank you, great idea.
Cool.
One other question, it's not really a question, but Paul Reedy thanks you for all the handy tips and plenty of ways to improve.
Awesome, my pleasure, glad to help, guys. As I said, we'll be sending some information out to you, so take a moment to actually have a look through that, make some notes of some things that you want to change, and even schedule in when you're going to put those changes into place. So don't let it be just, oh yeah, that was great, got some great ideas from that, and then, come Monday morning, it's all but a distant memory. Take some action to follow through and make changes. Otherwise, yeah, it was great, love talking to you for an hour, but if you're not going to change something, then you're not getting as good value from it. So please take action.
And then to close off, Michelle Gregory has said, thank you, Donna. My number one takeaway, choose one thing, do it well and do it quickly.
Awesome. Totally agree. Nice work, everyone. Well, glad that, great to have been talking with you and doing this workshop. And as I said, you'll get some information via email from Tony in due course. And if I can help in any way, if you're wanting any training with business coaching or time mastery or any of the other things, I do lots of different things, just reach out to me. I've put my contact details on screen, but you'll get that in the PowerPoint anyway. So feel free to reach out and say hi and make an inquiry.
Awesome. So if there's no more questions, we'll close off the session. So thank you very much, Donna, for your fantastic presentation.
Pleasure.
And I'm sure we'll be in touch in the future. And everyone, don't be shy. Donna's information will be presented to you. So over the coming days, you will receive a follow-up email with a link to view today's recording and the PowerPoint presentation and any other relevant information Donna will provide. I'll also include Donna's email address as part of that email. So on behalf of Donna Stone from Stone Business Coaching and APPA, Thank you all for your for participating in joining us today. And I hope you all have a great afternoon and a great Friday. And enjoy the weekend. Oh, before we go, I just saw a question come in. Or it might be... No, thank you very much from Chris.
Pleasure.
And Graham Bullis. Thanks, Donna. Thanks, Tony. There you go.
Cheers.
Very
All right,
grateful
guys. Have a
people.
good one. Bye.
Thank you.